today we have Anthony Floyd. We've been trying to connect for a couple weeks here to get you to come on, and finally did it. So basically we just kind of start off talking about maybe your first experience with Chaney football. You played during a great run. As a sophomore, junior, senior, on the 10-0 team, state runner-up, really good senior year. What are some of the initial memories or memories you had of either entering Chaney or how you got to Chaney, your first initial experiences?
Well, when I first got there, my brother was a year older, so I was around a lot when he used to come to practice with the freshman team. I was there during the summertime, and then, of course, all their games. Then we started going to a couple of the varsity games. And just being around the program, seeing, getting to know some of the older players, it was just an opportunity just to see how high school football was. Coming from, like I said, I played at Voney, so the middle school, so the transition from middle school to high school, and it was a real big difference per se. But I think I got a feel for it before I got to Chaney, which actually helped me out.
So you were at Voney. Who was your coaches down there? Was it Gessler maybe?
Nah, it was before Gessler. I can't even remember. I know one was like a health teacher and one was like a science teacher. I don't even remember their names.
Okay. And then so were you going to any like Ron had talked about integrating those Voney teams into coming to some games, maybe tagging along? Did you get to go to any of those or anything like that?
I think I didn't, but like with as I said, my brother, they took a couple of the freshmen games. I think he went to 3-4 games. I think I went to a couple of the City Series games, and I remember going to Ravenna out there. So that was like the first time really traveling like out of the area for football. Because I mean, when I played for Voney Rogers, it was a lot of stuff in the areas local. I mean, like Struthers might have been like the furthest that we played, or Warren. But going, like I said, out of town to play somebody, then they was playing. I think they got into East Liverpool. Then of course, before I got to play, like my brother, my freshman year, they ended up playing Brook, West Virginia. So it was just being around the program at that level before I really stepped up to the varsity era.
Yeah. Ron, when do you have any memories of Anthony coming up, or when he was at Voney, or did you have an eye on him coming up, or?
Well, we South is where your dad played, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Having Antoine in the program, and we knew that Anthony was down at Voney, and we were just excited that both of them were in our direction. But there was no pursuit or anything. I mean, at that point, we didn't call to get Antoine or Anthony there, and we didn't talk to the parents or anything. I mean, that was entirely their choice to come our way.
Sure, but once and we talked about it when we were coaching. One of the things was recruiting your own kids, right? Because if you're a good player coming out of junior high, especially today, and even back then, you're going to have some options.
Oh yeah, we knew that the level of success that they had on the junior high level, and it's interesting that I actually thought Gesslers were down there then, but I'm thinking that the guys that were originally there might have still been there when you were there. When I took over in '87, when we came in '87, there were people obviously on board there, and then as they acclimated in the way we were doing things, they didn't really want to do what we were asking them to do, and that's when the Gesslers took over.
Yeah, I think when I was there, I think about 95% of our Volney team, I know we won the City Series that year, we all went on and played at Chaney. So it wasn't like, it was just the expectation of our team going and moving on. Mm-hmm. I mean, with Carmen Farina, we had the Sintersack brothers, we had Fuller. Those are some of the people that end up all playing throughout the course of the year, the next 4 years at Chaney with me. We all started there and all moved on. Aaron Robbins was another one, and we all went ahead together. It wasn't the same pursuit as it was now. It wasn't no phone calls. There wasn't no, hey, come here. It was just you went to one school, and the next stop is the high school from the area. So I think that's where what ended up happening with that.
Yeah. I'm wondering if that time, maybe Ron, you would know, there wasn't open enrollment at that time yet.
No.
I don't think.
No.
And that's really changed it, right? So, like, it seems like every school is now a school of choice. It used to just kind of be like, well, you could go to a Catholic school or you could move or something like that. But now you have options to go from one public to another public or to a private. Even from an academic standpoint, I mean, it's a school of choice. You got to provide things to kids to make them want to come to your district.
Well, the district was involved with racial balance transfer at that time.
Right.
So there was some movement by the district to balance the playing field, so to speak, and it I don't think it had anything to do with athletics. I think it was just a matter of, district by district or section by section of the city being racially balanced, mm-hmm. or trying to maintain a racial balance.
Right.
Yeah, because when we got there, like I said, my dad went to South, and that's what we knew. My brother got accepted into Volney. So, of course, me being a year younger, I got pulled along with that. It's like, we didn't even know where Chaney was at, because they had to go, like, for track practice. And it was like, hey, go to Chaney for track practice. We was like, where is Chaney at? Like, it wasn't no GPS. It wasn't nothing.
Right,
so it's like, hey, turn right here, turn left. And it was like, oh, it's a school right here. We never knew where it was at. But, I mean, so that was, like, our first introduction to Chaney was, like, my brother running middle school track. So, like I said, even though games they always broadcasted City Series games on TV and stuff like that, South was always our school that we wanted to go to because of my dad. But of course, they closed before we even got into high school.
Yeah, it wasn't until I think the late '90s, that there was intra-district transfer, but it had to enhance the racial balance.
Until they closed East, probably.
Okay. Yeah, so one of the things I was looking at was obviously your brother was really successful. And, how did that motivate you? I think in 95, he was All-City. That would probably been as a sophomore. Mm-hmm. You as a freshman coming in, was there a competitive piece, like a supportive piece, a little bit of both? To see his success and then know, hey, I'm going to be with him next year?
Well, I think I wouldn't say competitive because we played different positions. With him playing quarterback, that's the position that he played when he was younger, and always where I played more running back. Then I got into playing receiver once I got into the varsity level. So it was just playing alongside him. I think we only played 1 year together in Little League. So having an opportunity to come up at the high school level, it was something I was more looking forward to because, like I said, the familiarity with him and knowing what he can do and adding my skill. Like with me coming up into playing varsity, I think it was just more of, can I fill that role and be the next person that could come along and play? Because I said I went to games my brother's freshman year, so knowing some of the older kids that I watched, because they had a real good team, I think in '94, I think.
And 91, 92, 93, 94, that was a string of...
Yeah, because I think I started watching games, I think '94, and they had a lot of talent, especially like at the receiver position, running back position. Then watching '95, when my brother was a sophomore, it was just like, okay, can I be the next person that come along and play? Because one thing that I was big on when I got to Chaney, and I tell a lot of people, was looking at the tradition. And I think that's one thing that the coaching staff did a real good job of, is really, this is our tradition. This is what Chaney football is. This is our expectations. So with me coming in from playing Little League to middle school to high school, I was more acceptable of what's required of me and what's required of being a Chaney Cowboy football player. So my big thing was more, hey, can I fit into this role in this type of player, more than just the accolades and the athletic ability of this. Is my thing is, can I play at this level? Because the story is, Coach Berdis didn't let people play as freshmen before this. So, and it was a lot of injuries my freshman year at receiver. Okay. And it was a possibility of me coming up and playing. I know Carmen dressed and maybe got in like one snap or two. Carmen Farina, his freshman year. So it was like, okay, can I come up and step up and play at that level? And I mean, the decision was not to move up at that level. So at that time, so remember that?
Yeah, I do. We were just excited about, the possibilities of where we were going to plug him in. I mean, he's just such a gifted athlete and such a great player, but we didn't think we needed to bring him up, and he's 100% right. I thought, stay with your class. I felt stay with your class, and then by the time you guys are seniors, that'll all gel and work its way into being something really special. And Dykes and we brought up because we had to. Gilchrist, we were on the verge then of just breaking out and starting to become a program. And so Anthony was in a situation where we felt fairly secure where we were at, and we had tasted the playoffs now, and we thought we were in that direction, and if at all possible we didn't have to, then we wouldn't.
So I have two questions on that. So the first one is, sometimes with athletes, high-level athlete, do you feel like there's a place sometimes with young players to just learn how to be the man? So, like, maybe you're a freshman, Keelan, and he talked about it, like that made him a man coming up that first year. So obviously there's that piece, but do you feel like sometimes keep guys down there at a freshman level and just let them dominate? Is there benefit to that?
Things have changed, I would say that, because a lot of players now want to get on the field as soon as possible. They feel the need, because it's more scholarship talk, everything else. I got to get on the field early, get looked at. I mean, and when you look at '95, it wasn't that same impression. Mm-hmm. So with me, I understood that it's opportunity. But I understood being adapting to the program, that it doesn't happen often. Mm-hmm. So it was no hard feelings. It was no animosity. I didn't feel slighted at all not playing varsity at that time, because with me, it was still in a growth period.
Right.
When I say that, because even like when my first scrimmage at the varsity level, like I probably dropped 2 or 3 passes, and I was like, dang, I look bad out here. Like, am I ready for varsity even at that time? So I understood that it allowed me to continue to work. I would say that, because I remember talking to my dad after my freshman year, and really I almost quit playing football at that point, because I played baseball. I started running track. I almost quit playing football because growing up, I was always the one that was they relied on. So like, hey, we down, we need a touchdown, try to give Anthony the ball. So that happened through Little League up and through middle school, even to freshman year, where it was like, hey, I had to get the ball, make the play in order for us to win the game. And I got to a point where like it got boring to me at that point. Like I was just tired of being in that role. But I think when I got to my sophomore year, what changed is the fact that like I wasn't the man that we had veteran players, we had senior players. Like I was now on the bottom of the hierarchy. And like I said, when I came off from my first scrimmage, like I didn't play well. So it's like continue to work and continue to get better. And I think that opportunity helped me, because like now I had to really earn my spot on varsity. Like, so with me not playing my freshman year, it was going from freshman to try to, can I make it on varsity level? Like it was no JV.
Right.
So it was either, so I think that pushed me more. So if I'd have played my freshman year, it would have been more like expectation my sophomore year to say, oh, I should be here. But I think it helped me work harder, because I had the opportunity to really, now this is your time. You didn't play last year. This is your time. Can you play varsity? So it allowed me to work more and work harder to get where I was at.
And then so 1996 was your sophomore year.
Yes.
Right? And you guys go 10-0 that year. That's a great year. And I was reading, I saw the first opening up with Fitch. Do you have any memories of that Fitch game?
Yeah, I think, well, it was just, to me, it was just electric atmosphere, because we played on a Thursday night that year. So, like, it was us, and I think, like, South Range, the only team that played. So, like, everybody was there. I remember my friends from Wilson, friends that went to Rand, like, they all was, like, we came out the locker room, they're all on the visitor side. So, like, you see all of them coming out, they're cheering for you, they're encouraging you. Of course, Coach gave one of his great speeches in the locker room that game. And it was just ready to play, and it was just, I think it was just might have been, the stands was full, so 10-some thousand people there, whatever they hold, and I think it was just a very electric atmosphere, and being able to have success that first game, it just fed into more of wanting to have success and wanting to have success for our school, have success for our team, because like that game, I had a great game, but everybody played well. And when you look at that first game with the rivalry we had with Fitch, because before that it was like every other year, like Fitch would win a year, then Chaney would win, then Fitch would win, then Chaney would win, then that game was a blowout. So, because I remember going to the game in '95, and I think we lost by a couple points or something like that. So then coming the next year, and it was like we ready for them, come out, we had new uniforms. It was just a great feeling just to go out there and handle business.
Yeah, and you had a pretty good game that day. Right?
Yeah, and it was funny, because I was talking to one of the guys who was affiliated with Fitch now, and he was like, it was a surprise, because we went to scrimmages, we seen film, and like I said, I played bad my first scrimmage, and it was like they looked at film and was like, I wasn't even on their radar. So when I had that game, it was just like a surprise to them, because they never scouted and was like, where this kid come from? Yeah. Because like I said, I had such of a bad game before that. It was just like, sophomore, might not be playing, whatever.
So, looking through the West Side Saga book and checking the Vindicator, it said 273 all-purpose yards, 4 TDs. I think 2 receiving, 2 rushing. Does that sound? That's a good way to open up. And Ron, do you have any thoughts or memories from that game?
Well, he was like he was alluding to. He was still kind of a kept secret. I mean, he was. No one was aware that he was a go-to guy. I mean, he was a sophomore, and we had two great tight ends, Craig Lynn and Bill Cigarelli.
Yeah.
And with Antoine under center, he comes in as really as an upstart, and to have the game that he had obviously set a tone for a great year.
And so you're using him in different spots, right? Wide receiver, he's running the ball. Were you splitting time at tailback? Did you have a feature or what?
Well, actually, I rotated every other play because when we did our plays, they ran through our receivers.
Yeah.
So every other play, I came out the game every other play.
Okay.
With that, then it was just an opportunity to get some carries. We had, like I said, Mike Klingscale was running the ball, then Matt Gerbode. So it was just like, hey, get a few carries here and there.
I'd forgotten Mike was on that. That's right.
Yeah, so like it was just more of an alternating. So, I mean, when you look at the amount of plays I probably played, I only played probably half the game with that. I think I really didn't play no defense or maybe one series on defense that game.
And then so
you were returning though, right?
Yeah, I was returning. Also, I ended up cramping up at the end of like the third quarter anyway, so I played like half the fourth quarter.
It must be that stadium, man. We've had more cramps in that stadium.
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at the amount of plays that I played, it was just like it wasn't a feature. It just when the opportunity came, the play was made.
Yeah. And so what was your first score? Was it a receiving touchdown? Or
the first touchdown was, I think it was like an 81-yard touchdown pass.
How does that feel getting that pass from your brother? I'm assuming that's probably, maybe in that moment, it's not as significant, but maybe as you get a little older, how did that feel?
Well, looking at it as I'm older, it is something that feels good because, like I say, your family member, your brother that you spend a lot of time with, that you do things with, sharing the moment. And I think that was also big for him because they did lose the previous year. And coming back, having to be able to come down and him have a good game as well, I think that was big because he was able to set the tone for his season as well.
Right.
Because he was an all-state player that year. And I think it really gave confidence in him, but it also gave confidence in the team. Because, like, my thing was, looking back on it, is contributing to the team. It wasn't about my touchdown. It wasn't about that. It was how can I contribute to the team, and the fact that we're up on our rivals that we prepared for. I think that was the most significance, is the fact that I contribute that early.
And then so, Ron, as the season progresses, what kind of development do you see? And obviously it's a 10-0 year. We talked about it earlier when you worry about everything, you see it, but what kind of development did you see in Anthony and in offense and just progressing on what you could do?
Well, when you have a gifted athlete like Anthony and someone that's committed to the program, and will work his tail off, again, the world is your oyster. I mean, you there's a lot that you're able to do. Now, did we probably take full advantage of the ability that we had? I think for what we knew, yeah. I think we came in as a smash mouth, off tackle, short passing, play action, and I think he gave us another dimension. And like I said, did we do the best job of exploiting that? I don't know. I mean, obviously we won a lot of football games that year, and but I'm sure, looking back, and if you studied the film, offenses were evolving at that time. I mean, they were becoming more open, and but we were doing what we knew, and he was certainly a great shot in the arm.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to ask you about, because I was looking at it, and I just like to mess with you on this. A couple years before, your wide receivers were in 3-point stances, so.
Yeah, I feared
Maybe
that.
Anthony,
I feared that because I watched the
talked to
game.
me out of being in the 3-point stance.
Yeah, I feared that because I said I went to a couple games in like '94, and it was like they're in a 3-point stand, like at receiver. But I just think when you say evolved, our offense evolved, but it was in the scheme of things.
Sure.
Like there wasn't no creative plays, so it would just expand the passing game that we was able to do it. So it was the same plays. I think that year my brother, he threw like 25 touchdowns and like
26, yeah,
something like that, and 4 interceptions. So like Craig Lynn had a phenomenal year.
Right.
Matt Girbodi had a great year out catching the ball out the backfield. Fragler had his reception. Geminette had his. So the ball was spread around a lot. Because I think I had maybe 35 to 40 catches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think where like Craig Lynn might have had close to 30 himself. But it was able to, like with me being able to stretch down the field now, we was able to have that dimension of throwing the ball downfield to me, or we, like I said, a lot of times Craig Lynn, instead of a 8-yard out, he can run a 15-yard out now because being able to stretch the defense. But like I said, I think a lot of it was in the scheme of things. We ran the same sprint out package, curl out combination.
3-step, a little bit of 3-step, a little bit of 5-step. But yeah.
So, Ron, and we've talked about it, starting off your career, like you said, smash mouth, what kind of Ed did, taking some things from Red Angelo. And then, you get a guy like Anthony Floyd, followed by Brad Smith. What did you do personally, professionally, to kind of, because you got to maximize those guys. That really doesn't come around, and then you have the supporting talent around them as well. That had to be a evolution for you as a coach and philosophy.
No question. I mean, we were. We do any gun when you were in '97?
Not really.
I don't think so.
Not really.
I don't think so. But we were when Brad, you got Antoine throwing 50-some touchdown passes in his career, and Anthony, as a deep threat and a return guy. Obviously that. We stayed within scheme, but it enabled us to do more. Okay, it enabled us to be. I don't even want to use the word more creative because
I think it was more or less predictable.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to throw quick screen to Anthony and let him create.
Sure.
But it opens up.
Everything else.
It opens up everything else, exactly. It opens up Craig Lynn.
Right.
It opens up getting in stack and running circle seam and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then in answer to your question, down the road, when Brad came along, even as a sophomore, Anthony was still going under center once in a while. We even created a little package, pitching you the ball and letting them sprint out off of a pitch. we were spread. I mean, we started doing with Brad's tenure there. You know, we got into a spread gun package.
Yeah, I remember Empty and Roger and Luger, and
Yeah.
Rifle and Luger, I think you called it. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say that, and I always tell the story. I said, you can just tell the progression of Coach. Because I think one thing he did good was he trusted us in game.
Mm-hmm.
So like even like going into my junior year, like if we say a play's there, he called it. So it wasn't like he had to make the play, he had to make the call, and everything else. So if he's like, hey, I can beat this guy on this play, then hey, he's calling it. Like he trusted us at that point, which I think was a real testament of him, because like I said, before 3rd and 3, he might run stack off tackle. Now it's 3rd and 3, we running a deep route because they're not expecting it. But he trusted us, and I think that was a big thing. And I tell people all the time, I remember just like my senior year and walking through the hall, and he always wrote his plays for practice on his yellow legal pad.
Yeah.
So he just stopped me in the hallway and started drawing stuff like plays and like, hey, what about this and what about this? And I can see that he was learning and he wanted to improve and be better as a coach. And I think that was big for me because he trusted me. So, of course, I trusted him in what they did.
Yeah, who better than your soldiers, to ask and bounce things off of? I mean, we told the story of at Poland when, when I had a bonehead call there, and we put ourselves in a fumbled position, winning. They had it. They assured me, it's okay, we got this. So yeah, I think that's a vital part of coaching, is to be able to go to your guys and get feedback and incorporate that into your game plan.
Yeah, and that's, if you remember, that's what, like Sylvester Patton, Mark Heron, all those guys, when we talked to them, that was another thing that they said was, and I think to your point, right, when the coach listens to you and it comes through, right, you get money in the bank now. Now you can have that conversation and go back more often. So 96, 10-0 as a sophomore. You go into 1997. What are you kind of feeling as far as, now you've proven yourself to yourself, maybe to others? What do you think about going as a junior now?
Well, you know what? It's funny because even going into my junior year, I think my emphasis was more on defense that year. Because we had I played a little bit of corner. I alternated and rotated at corner that year between Phil Jaminet and Ollie Hightower, and then Mike was the cornerstone and anchor in the secondary at safety. Of course, I mean him going. You got a Division I safety that went to West Virginia, so it's like now trying to step up and be that position, because I moved from corner to safety to be on the field and be a permanent part of that aspect. And my sophomore year at corner, I played decent. Most of the games. Poland, I had a bad game. I ain't gonna lie. They started running power and was pulling guys left and right, and I was like, I'm not ready for defense with that. And I remember they pulled me because I think I started the game. They pulled me at corner, and they put Ollie Hightower in. And he had a good game and really turned things around that game, because they was, I think, running through us like the first quarter and a half. But anyway, I think going into my sophomore year, I think it was more emphasis on the defensive side of the ball, because like offense, by that time playing 11 games, because we went to the playoffs,
Right.
the offense was going to be there. Then I think it was stepping up as on the defense side of the ball was one. Then the other side on offense, because we did lose, like I said, those seniors, the Mike Cleanskill, the Matt, we lost Craig, lost the tight end. So, like, it was more, we started going a little more spread and had to use and get more creative between me, Ollie Hightower, Jim Lotto. Like, I remember them playing receiver, them playing running back, Lotto played tight end. Ollie Hightower played everything. So it was like trying to be like, hey, this is what we got left, and how can we put it together in order to have success?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody thought that 97, although, I mean, we had the ingredients of the core of great players coming back, but we did lose a lot. And there's no discounting the fact that the Canfield game took a lot of steam out of us. I mean, you jump 18-0 and throw the ball like it's sunny and not 80, and then the track gets almost non-playable, and then defensively we struggled to stop them. But that was a tough loss because that was a really, really good football team.
And I think we had probably maybe on offense, we probably had 7, 8 starters on offense was all seniors.
Returning.
No, that left.
That we
Yeah,
lost.
so it's just and those same people on offense play defense. So like when I think of I think it was like me, Carmen, Antoine, and Ollie Hightower. I think that was like the only one. Or even on defense, I think we was like the only 3 returning starters. I think Lotto was the other one.
Yeah.
I think so. Like 4 returning starters on defense and maybe like 4 on offense.
So, and you said you knew you had guys. Did you guys, Ron or Anthony, did you anticipate making the run that you make in 97?
We were getting ready to pack the gear.
I mean, but even still, like, just you know the pulse of the team coming back. Like, you'd always say, well, we could go 10-0, we could go.
Well,
10.
And I don't want to steal your fire, Anthony, but that was the year we lost the city game. That's the year we got beat by East.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, that I mean, we should have won. I mean, there's no question, and we even had a chance at the end to pull it out, and that was a devastating loss. But we finished the year going into Hubbard. We thought, okay, well, this is as close as we're going to get to a playoff game. We're talking about end of the year, right. And then we come out and just an undefeated Hubbard team. We just completely dismantled. Beck was the coach then, and
he was probably pretty happy about that.
He was in absolute shock.
I bet he was.
I mean, it was because they had to run their last lap after the game, and it was. But anyway, we knew we thought, well, we got a good chance of getting in now, and if we can play like this, we'll be in any game that we line up in, and then we had a great run.
I think that year it was a bunch of scrappy guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I say that, like we just had enough mix of people who was willing to do multiple things. Like I said, when you had Ollie and Jim Lotto like playing multiple positions. I mean, we had multiple people playing fullback with Dan Lane, Tuton, like everybody like contributed. So it's like, hey, it's your time to step up, like do this. Like you had players that can do multiple things. You had some players that can do 1 or 2 things, and some people just, hey, I just need you to block this guy on this one play.
Right.
And I mean, and that's where everybody relied on each other because we knew as a team on paper it wasn't a lot of overall talent, but everybody fought and played well like that. But surprisingly, that year we played real well on special teams that kept us in games. I think we had maybe 5 or 6 returns for touchdowns that year. Mm-hmm. And that's a testament because everybody blocked. Everybody made an effort to do their job. And I think that carried us through the season, and it gave us opportunity once we got later in the season, like you said, to that Hubbard game where, like I said, they had 2 1,500-yard rushers in their backfield, and our emphasis was like, hey, we stop them, we can win. So it wasn't about the playoffs It wasn't about anything else. It was just about stopping those kids, those players that day.
Right.
Then it, like I said, allow us to get in.
And we were pretty big up front. I mean, we had Farina and Fuller and Joe Harris, and we had some size up front.
Yeah. Bugzovich was your.
But
center.
also, yeah. But we also had Bill Bugzovich, who was a great football player and but 160 pound center.
But when you say, like I said, this having those scrappy players, that really, and like I said, we knew Bugzovich was undersized, but he gave it all. So everybody else gave their all every single game.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things about high school, right? You have different categories of players. You get a heady player, you get a physically gifted player, you get that guy who will cut your heart out with a butter knife, and then you get those special ones that have it all.
Yeah.
Um,
And you need each of them. They all have their place.
Yeah, and I think that was big for us because like they knew, a lot of players knew who the stars were,
Mm-hmm.
and they understood their role, and a lot of them was happy to be in the role because a lot of them was all playing JV the year before for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
especially on offense. So it's like this is their time to really play varsity,
Right.
and I think they really stepped up and showed what they actually has as a varsity player. Because a lot of them, like I said, was seniors who just now had the opportunity to play varsity because they waited their turn.
Yeah.
They've been in the program. They've been through the doubles. They've been through all the weightlifting and everything else. And so they didn't waste their opportunity once they got on the field.
Yeah. And then so you guys get in the first round of the playoffs, and you had was it
Minerva, number
right?
one team in the state.
Yeah. And you win that game. Then Walsh.
No, East then Walsh.
Oh, East. Yeah, you get the rematch
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
YSU.
Yeah. But that was another, like I said, gutsy because East played real well that game.
Yeah.
We played well the first time we played against them, and we didn't capitalize on being in the red zone multiple times, and they ended up doing the same thing versus us. So they came out, they was ready to go, but they didn't capitalize and score. They had a lot of turnovers. So
And then we took control in the second half.
yeah, and so it was just an opportunity. But like I said, it was just that keep scrapping and keep playing. Like even versus Minerva with number one, once we got through that second quarter, through halftime, we're in the game. It was like, hey, if we make one or two plays, we can have opportunity to win. Because we didn't go in and say, oh, we just going to run through this playoff. It was just like, hey, we're out here, and I think it was like raining a little bit, and it was like hope it ain't gonna be like last year. So it's like, but once we got in there, it was we realized like we're in the game, and we can win this game, and everybody just continue to do their part. And I think that's the one thing, like nobody gave up that year at any game. Like you get teams where it's like they get down, and all of a sudden it starts snowballing and the whole game is bad. Like we never had that. It was like we get down, let's keep fighting. Everybody encouraged everybody else, and I think that's what helped us pull through that playoff run.
So Ron, the previous year, '96, certainly weather's kind of the factor. Going into the '97 playoffs, that first round, having lived that upset and sitting on that, did you view it differently? Did you approach it differently?
Two different. You mean as far as the weather conditions?
I mean, just maybe you as the head coach, the leader, saying, okay, you know what, last year we go 10-0, we get upset in the first round. Could I change anything going into this set of playoffs? Or did you just say, you know what, we are who we are? And
Yeah, because we threw the ball really well against Minerva, and won handily. It started off nip and tuck, but no, I think in answer to your question, this is who we are, this is what we do, and our kids are playing well, and they continued to answer the call.
because I think Minerva actually came out and scored like their first possession, but it was like a 15, 17 play drive.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, something that was their MO.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, but we kept on fighting and kept on pushing because, like, that was just our team. It was just like, hey, it's only us out here. Like, we went to the state championship game. We had 35 players and dressed 42, including freshmen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you look at that, and the year before we had like 60. So, like, it was more of a tight-knit group.
Right.
And it's just like, hey, I need you to do this. Okay. I need you to do this. Okay. Hey, can you block him? Yeah, I got him. Okay. So it's like, it was that team was so, like, connected and want to play for each other that, like, say, some of these people, some of the players, that's their highlight of their career.
Sure.
That's the highlight. So they know that, hey, I'm gonna fight for you, fight for me, because this is the only thing I got. This is the only thing I'm gonna take with me once I graduate high school.
Right.
And I think that allowed them to fight harder and play harder every single play.
And I think evident of that is, you look at your playoff trail that year, and Minerva's the number one team in the state. East is a team that beat you in the regular season. Walsh is a
Three. That was 3.
Walsh was a third.
Yep.
They're a Catholic school that recruits all over the place and have probably 70 kids on their sideline and have a huge
going to Notre
fullback
Dame,
in
right?
this. Yeah.
He went to Notre Dame. Pat O'Neill was a linebacker, went to Ohio State. So, like, when you just face those names and stuff like that, then Columbus DeSalles is the number 2 ranked team. So we played the 3 of the top 4 tems in the state during that playoff run.
DeSalles dresses 90 guys that really a memorable year as far as the success that they had and how they kept answering the bell. Really special group of kids.
And then going into just speaking of that East game, Ron, all those films you gave me, that East game's in there. That was a pretty physical game. I mean, that was like you said, there were a couple turnovers in there, but
the first East game,
the second one, I think
the playoff game.
Yeah.
It was a physical game. It was a physical game, and it wasn't.
You could tell on film it was heated. You usually can't get that tone.
Yeah,
but
well, I always say, because the first, I think, was just big for the city itself, for City Series football, having 2 teams. Because, like I said, because Chaney was dominating through the 90s. Like I said, you had the Rand teams, you had the South teams in the previous years. To have 2 playoff teams, because at that time it was only 4 make the playoffs.
Right.
So in your region, so it's like to have 2 teams make it to the second round, it was like they are rivals, we want to go at them, but we're both proud of each other. Like, we was proud of East making it to that second round. Because that's for the regional championship. So it's like we was proud of them, they was proud of us. Now we get to play again. Like, so we was like looking forward to that rematch on both sides.
Right.
With that, but of course it was physical. Like, that was the first year that YSU opened up the east side, the visitor sideline for a high school game, and it was packed. People came out and supported both teams, and we had that fun interjection that came right before halftime with the microphone, and it's funny because sometimes when I talk to some of my friends that went to East and stuff like that, we talk about that part more than we actually talk about the game. And we still have debates on certain things. And I talked to some of the coaches because it's like, I think they fumbled the first play of the game. It was like a catch, and I hit their tight end, and he fumbled, and Lotto caught the ball. So, like, it was a turnover, like, from the hit instantly in the game. So it was like a lot of, like I said, physicality, and but we knew that's the way they play. And we had to fight and had to match their intensity because they came out wanting to dominate. Even though they fumbled the first play, they played well. They moved the ball well. And that was just how those kids was, and that's how that was taught at East, and we had to actually match their intensity at that point throughout the game.
Yeah, and I remember Ron telling stories just about how devastated, he was. I mean, from 90 to 96, you guys win the city championship, and in that year it was like it was like a death in the family.
Yeah, there's no question.
State championship game. What was it like? Preparing for that. I've seen some like some video of back in that time. What was it? WFMJ would come on location and have shows. I think they did a show for you guys. Was it Inside High School Sports? It had to be a really big, special time. But yet you're still getting ready to play a game. It should be, it's still business. I guess, what was that experience like?
I pass this question to Coach just because, for me, it's still business. It's still playing. I mean, it's part of the game. I mean, the more success you have, the stuff is going to come. But, like, our focus was on preparation, or 5-hour practices that we had.
Yeah, well, that was over Thanksgiving, right?
We played. Well, yeah, we played.
Yeah, that weekend.
Yeah.
It back then, yeah.
Yeah, because we practiced Thanksgiving morning,
Yeah.
and what was electric about to use Anthony's word, about the atmosphere in preparation was, a lot of alumni were coming to practice, and everybody that aura of excitement that was in the air, and every night they'd call at a certain time for an interview on the game, with thoughts on how practice was going, obviously uncharted territory for us. I mean, but the run that they had, that we had, getting to that point, it was about, let's keep this routine as normal as possible and do the things that we've been doing, and let the chips fall where they may. We knew that we were going against. I got 10 film from them. I told them I'll give them all 10 of mine. Give me 10, and we watched them all, and that was a really, really good football team that played a great schedule. But we try to keep things at an even keel.
I think what I can remember now is the fact that is one thing that our coaching staff always did was prepare us through our scouting report, and I think like they ran option, and we didn't face option the whole year, so it was so much emphasis on like at practice like to stop the option. Stop the option, stop the option, stop the option. The quarterback is going to have success. We got to stop him. That was a big part of it. Then they also had Grant Bowman, which was actually the defensive player of the year that year, was their nose tackle. And they had some other guys. And so I think with preparation and saying, hey, on offense, hey, like Bugsvich, you're going to go get the defensive player of the year who's going to Michigan. And you're 160-pound 5 guy. So like, but everybody else know, hey, I need to step up and help. I need to put a hand on him. I need to do this. And we worked a lot of scheme on offense a little bit because what they was doing on defense with their scraping their linebackers when we try to sprint out and everything else like that. So I think that week was more of being prepared to play that caliber team. So I think a lot of distractions was it wasn't a focal point. It didn't get caught up because we had so much like, hey, if you do the things correctly, we can be in the ball game. If you don't let it can get ugly quick, and it doesn't even matter where you at and who's coming, which camera and stuff like that.
Right.
So I think that really helped us not worry about the hoopla. It would just focus on your assignments because it's different than what we faced in the past.
Yeah, that's and you're 100% on the money, Ant. option football is assignment football, and they did it very well, and we went in, and Pope got the defense playing well, and put some adjustments in, and when you're in a 14-14 game, and we actually had a chance to go up. We turned the ball over down on the 10 or whatever it was, and there were so many things that happened, but football is a game of attrition, and although we didn't have many injuries, but they made one play and we didn't. And if you talk to people about that game to this day, they're going to say, oh well, they weren't in the one time down on the end zone.
It wasn't.
If the ball would have bounced a certain way, Anthony could have taken it in.
That too.
Right before halftime. Your Uncle Pat swore to me that it wasn't even close about getting into the end zone there, and one of our guys tripped up in the back when they got behind us.
Yeah, I think like Troy leg was hurt from he had a thigh bruise. He was hurt, so he couldn't turn.
And there was a timeout right before that. I remember I come on auto and just relaying Pope's information. Just keep everything in front of you, and
because it was funny because that game when you said Pope put a game plan together, our goal was stop the run, and I think earlier in the game we was stopping the run. They was moving the ball, but they was passing on us. We was why is they passing? How is they passing? I think they threw the ball maybe 20 times the whole season.
Yeah.
And threw it versus us 10.
Yeah.
And it was why are they doing that? And we had to make our our adjustments in the second half. But early on, it was they was running the ball, we stopped them. Then they hit a little tight end pop pass for 8 yards and get a first down. On third and 5, they hit a first down. It's dang, we can't we can't. But I said, but that team was let's keep fighting. Let's keep fighting. Let's have opportunity. If we stop them, then we have opportunity in offense. We didn't have an electric offense, but it was what can we do to continue to move the clock and pick up yards and get first downs?
But it seemed there were some, maybe not down in, down out electric, but you guys made some plays.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Right. They had an injury, and to one of their guys in the back, and we went deep right after halftime.
Yeah, I caught a pass at the 1 yard line or something like that.
Yeah.
Then we ended up scoring right out of halftime.
Yeah, and then we went unbalanced, gave them an unbalanced wrinkle, and I remember throwing Ollie a little swing
pass,
and he took it down, and then that's when we were down around the 10 or 12 or something, and then we ran 3 curls or something, and just got hit high and low and dropped the ball. Jimmy, we turned it over, and that was the game. But getting back to the option football, that you look at Navy and Army and why they play the big Notre Dame and everybody, because they never see it. They never see that assignment football, and there's a lot of preparation involved in that. And,
it's the equalizer, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I remember I played safe. I think I had about 17 tackles that day. And just being able to try to be all over the field, and it's and like I said, I think the good thing is somebody who wasn't playing good, they understood, hey, come out for a play or two, get somebody else in there that can do it, and they did it without it wasn't a complaint, it wasn't an issue, because like I said, everybody was hey, let's get the best people in there to do the job at that time, and everybody was on board.
Yeah, and that's a tough culture to have, going with
It was all encouragement. Like I said, I don't remember people arguing about somebody not doing their job that year, and being, it was so unselfish. I think that was the most unselfish team I probably ever played on.
Wow. And probably one of the most successful. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.